If you're new to my channel, my name is Cort Brady, four-time founder with 3 exits. And since my last exit, I've been focused on how to help create fulfilled millionaires. So hope this is one of the things that helps you in your journey. Throughout my career, I've had different bosses, made different amounts of money, and work has been amazing or sucked independent of who that boss was and how much money I was making. So I put together a playbook of what I do when I'm in a slump at work. So reason number 1 is lack of freedom. We are meant to be free. And whenever we feel like somebody is taking control of our time or our actions or our money or our thoughts or our emotional energy, we get resentful. So the word for this is being micromanaged.
Here's what's going to happen. I am going to have to fix you, manage you to on a more personal scale, a more micro form of management. Jim, what is that called?
Microregiment?
Boom. Yes. Now, Jim.
The other part of this, in addition to being micromanaged, is our boss or whoever's in charge of us is requiring us to work on tasks rather than focusing on outcomes.
Yeah, but
Right. Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
Now, there's a great correlation between focusing on behaviors rather than only focusing on outcomes. But when those behaviors are being dictated to us rather than us choosing them, that's when we get frustrated. That's when we get resentful. And the interesting part about this is the more that our boss is focusing on our behaviors rather than our outcomes, it generally means that we're getting paid less than we could have. If we can be responsible just for outcomes instead of behaviors, then we'll make more money. So fortunately, there's a solution for this. And that solution is to crush your goals to such a degree and for such a long period of time that your boss goes from saying, I need you to make this many calls or send this many emails to, I need you to be responsible for this level of output. As that shift happens and you become responsible for outcomes rather than for inputs, your level of autonomy will increase and your sense of freedom will increase. You'll probably do a lot of the same activities you were doing before, but you're getting to dictate them to yourself rather than having somebody else dictate them to you. The second reason that I found I've been in a slump is that I lack the ability to be world class at whatever it is that I'm doing. I either don't want it or I can't get it. And as humans, we naturally want to be the very best version that we can possibly be and the best in our world, our community. So the way to think about this is built out by the Yerkes-Dodson law, and it perfectly maps how this works for us and why we either can't or don't want to master our craft. So to explain this, on the graph you have the x-axis, which has your level of anxiety. You have low all the way through to high. And before I go further, we've been conditioned to think that anxiety is this big negative, and that's just not the case. Anxiety is a neutral. And the times in your life that you've performed the very best, it's because anxiety was present. On the y-axis, you have levels of performance from low performance to high performance. And this curve is a bell curve. And so when your anxiety is low, and that's the variable that's going to control your level of performance, when your anxiety input is low, then you're apathetic, which means you're going to have low performance. You just don't care. You're complacent. As that anxiety input increases, your stress level goes up. You actually increase in your performance, and you reach this peak of excitement where anxiety is at the perfect level to peak out your performance. And then you start going down the other side of the curve where your performance goes down and down and down until it's almost nothing. You're paralyzed with fear and panic, and that's just ultra amounts of anxiety. So the reason you're having a hard time wanting to or being able to master your craft is because the anxiety input is at the wrong level. On one side, it's too low, which means the task is too easy. And in that case, don't do the task, delegate it to somebody else. And if it is a task that you have to do, then take a page out of Elon's playbook of moving the timeline up so that you have to complete the task rapidly. If you have to do that, it's going to spike your anxiety, which is going to increase your level of performance, which is going to make the task more enjoyable. You'll be in flow state, and you'll be able to master that craft. On the flip side, let's say there's a really difficult task that you just can't handle. You have to go close a deal or negotiate something or develop some code, and you can't get it. And so you just have this fear and panic, and you're paralyzed from that fear. What happens most of the time is people just go and do another activity. They distract themselves. They work on something that's not as important because they don't want to work on the most important thing because their anxiety is spiked and they're feeling fearful and in a panic. And people generally say, this is when I have anxiety, this is when I have depression. The solution here is to actually lean in to the difficulty and get your skill set better. As you do that, the anxiety, the task will stay the same, but your ability to accomplish the task will increase, and your anxiety will go down from panic and fear to this level of excitement, which will actually re-energize you. As you're listening to this second one of mastering your craft, you may be thinking, to be honest, I could do those things, but this task that I'm doing, I actually don't care about mastering. And if that's the case, then it leads me into the third item of why I'm feeling unmotivated or why I'm feeling in a slump and how I solve that. That third area is a lack of meaning and the inability to draw a connection between what you're spending your time on and what's really important to you. Mark Twain wrote, the two most important days in your life is one, when you're born, and then two, the day you find out why. When you're going through your tasks and you can't make this connection, it's going to be drudgery day after day and task after task. So the key is to figure out your why, to figure out your purpose, and then correlate that task to your purpose. And purpose can come in three ways. You can create something, you can enjoy creation that already exists, or in the words of Viktor Frankl, you can suffer bravely. So to find that meaning, what I've done is looked back in my life at the times where I was the very most fulfilled and at the times where I experienced the very most amount of suffering. And I've attempted to spend my activities doing those things that bring the very, very most fulfillment to me and solve those problems that cause the most suffering for others that I experience personally for myself. And once you're able to do that, and have a clear vision of the impact that you want to make on the world, then seemingly mundane tasks like answering the emails, taking the trash out, become meaningful, and you can do those tasks all in and with full purpose. So if you're not happy with your work, start by crushing it at your current position. That way you can go from being micromanaged and having tasks forced on you to having outcomes as the focus. If you consistently meet or exceed what your boss is asking you to do, then they're gonna go from a micromanager to just giving you the vision and allowing you to manage yourself. You may be doing the same exact activities, but dictating that to yourself is so much more fulfilling than having somebody look over your shoulder and dictate those to you. Next, work on tasks that are going to peak your performance. So if you're apathetic and you're not performing high and you have low anxiety inputs, then delegate the task or increase the deadline so that you have to do it faster, which is going to spike your anxiety, which is going to put you at peak performance. Or lean into the difficulty of the task, because when you're in panic and fear, that means you're not good enough at the task. So you need to work on the skill. Don't go do something else. That's the worst thing you can do. And then lastly, figure out your why. If you don't know what it is, look back in the times in your life that brought you the very most fulfillment and the times that brought you the very most suffering. How do you spend more time in the fulfilling things, and how do you relieve that suffering for other people and for yourself in the future? And then connect the tasks that you're doing to fulfilling that purpose. It's going to make the mundane tasks way easier to accomplish and keep you re-energized and refueled. So this is my playbook for getting out of slumps, and hopefully it works for you.